I think it's time to do another ride and ramble video, which I haven't done for a while. I have a whole bunch of footage collected for some episodes, but I just haven't edited them. So let's make this one real short and quick. Why do I run a GPS on my bike instead of a mapping app on a cell phone and have that mounted on the bars instead of my GPS? Well, I have been a GPS user since long before the days of a smartphone. I can tell you the first GPS I bought it back, and I'm almost positive it was in the year 2000. And it was a Garmin GPS 3 Plus. So, back to the why I don't run one. It's basically that's part of it. Is I've just always been a GPS guy since the year 2000. I can manipulate the tracks and make routes and tracks and whatnot and waypoints and manage them in, originally I managed them in Garmin Map Source, and then along came Basecamp. I still actually use Map Source a lot more than I use Basecamp, but that came out, of course, long before all of your online mapping systems like Gaia and Avenza and CalTopo and Onyx Off-Road and who knows what other ones exist. And all of those, or a lot of them anyway, if you want to get full feature usage out of them, you have to pay for a subscription. And they are web-based as far as being able to do stuff on your computer. But I'm just old school, I guess, and have preferred diddling around in Map Source and Basecamp. I have used the online system CalTopo for a while, about 4 years ago, and found that it was pretty interesting how, at least on a computer, you can pick and choose map layers so you can see different versions of maps. The other reason that I don't do a phone is, in many cases, like say for example, if I were on a long trip, my phone plus a device like a Garmin InReach, those two devices could be your savior for getting you out of a nasty situation if somebody in your group is injured, or if you break down or something like that. So having the phone not on the bike is, I would call it, risk mitigation. If your phone is on your bike, you're risking the issue of damaging it. Either in a crash. If you go over the bars, your knee could just completely obliterate the phone, pull it right out of the mount, and it might go off into the forest somewhere, never to be found again. And the other thing is, there are some vibration dampening mounts that will mitigate issues for wrecking the camera on your phone. But I just don't see the point in running the risk of damaging the entire phone or damaging the camera by having it mounted. And it's too expensive, in my opinion, too expensive of a piece of equipment for me to want to have the thing mounted on the handlebars. I watched a whole series of videos from a father and son team that did a cross-country ride on their CRF 450s. They had used some non-cell phone phones. Basically, it was a cell phone, but they weren't using it for a cell phone. They just bought it as a device to use for navigation. Both of them lost their phones partway through the trip. One of them may have recovered it, the other one did not. And he lost it somewhere on Black Bear Pass. It's actually getting a little chilly. So I think they were using a RAM style cradle with the phone held in place by a bunch of fingers, which I have one of those mounts, and for a while I was running a device, the cell phone, just to have some maps on it. And that unit did not hold that phone very securely. If I were to do that again, I would have a low-end phone, a ruggedized phone, and use some sort of a more appropriate vibration dampening mount from Quad Lock or Peak Design. But I would never use any of those high-end vibration dampening mounts to mount my actual cell phone on the device that I was using as a cell phone. I don't want to use my cell phone as navigation. So I guess that pretty much sums it up. And see, the other thing too is having the sun beat down on your cell phone and having it plugged in to charge, it very well could overheat and shut down. I have heard of people mentioning that happening to them. And then the cord to power the cell phone, it's very susceptible to falling out. So a better solution would be to use, like I believe probably Peak Design, and I'm pretty sure Quad Lock has a wireless base, to a wireless charging base that the phone pops into. So the wireless charging unit is on the bike and you have that hardwired to bike power. That would be a better option for powering your cell phone or a cell phone device that you're just using for navigation and not your actual cell phone. But you still could run into the possibility of whatever device you have mounted in a wireless charger, it still could overheat and shut down. So I haven't really played with any mapping apps much on a phone, so I don't know what would be the best one or how you would use that device to, say you're out in the middle of nowhere and you know that there's a quicker route to get off the mountain to town, but would like to have the ability to have the GPS device, the cell phone device, navigate you to that location. I don't know how easy that is to do with a mapping app on a tablet or cell phone device, because I've never explored being able to try and do that. They work really good for follow a track, but anything beyond that I don't know. The other thing about using a cell phone on your bars is you're locked into that form factor or that ecosystem of cases and mounts. So if you want to use Peak Design, then you have to figure out if they make a case for your phone. Same with Quad Lock. And those cases add a lot of bulk to the back of the phone, which means you can't just pop it onto any wireless charger pad that you might have already in your collection of stuff at home or in your vehicle. You're going to have to then bump up your expense level to buy a vehicle unit that's wireless charging for whether it's Peak Design or another brand or Quad Lock. So I guess that pretty much sums up why I prefer to use a real GPS on my bike. The GPS is a whole lot cheaper to replace if it goes Tango Uniform, or T/U. I won't speak the words that that acronym represents, but I'm sure anybody that's been around for a number of years probably can figure out what that means. Yeah, and I've just always been a GPS guy, so that plays into a lot of it. See, I've had the Garmin GPS 3 Plus, I've had a Garmin 176, then I upgraded to a 276C, then a 478, which I still have, and then this guy here, the Zumo XT. That is one of the construction people that's doing some work inside of that one tunnel, Tunnel 21. But I just recently bought a ruggedized Samsung tablet to use as a mapping device in my Polaris Ranger. So I need to get with the program and start exploring mapping apps that would be useful on a Android or iPhone based device. So I guess that summarizes my rambling about GPSs versus cell phones, or a inactive cell phone as a navigation device. Hope you enjoyed this little ride and ramble with Dualsport Doug. Headed down from the Hiawatha Trail, that fork in the road back there, that's what that went to. We're almost down to the Taft exit off of I-90, where you can pick up the Northern Pacific Railroad grade. So that's what I'm gonna do, is run that railroad grade back to camp. I might throw in a little bit of footage of that. So we actually can only run the Northern Pacific Railroad grade for a handful of miles, and then we have to pop up onto the Milwaukee Road Railroad grade, because the Northern Pacific is gated at the next exit off I-90.